This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate this opportunity and appreciate everyone joining in today to go through and talk a little bit about identifying business opportunities and planning for success. And I definitely need to give credit where credit's due. Matt Hepworth put this presentation deck together, so I appreciate him taking the time to put that together and help us get prepared for this class. And, given the group that's on today, I think what I can do is, maybe we can make it definitely more of a discussion, and we could potentially talk about, go in depth about some business opportunities maybe we've identified and how we can, plan for success with those particular opportunities. So I may take it in a little bit different direction, but I would definitely, appreciate each one of you, communicating and opening it up for just discussion here. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. Let's see. Okay, so these are a few things that we'll drill into, and this just kind of serves as an outline. But one of the main things when you're looking or seeking an opportunity to start or pursue a business, one thing that is helpful is to identify problems, right? Identify areas where maybe humanity would benefit from, whether it's an invention or a service-based business. So really, looking to those problems. And, throughout history, I think some of the greatest companies really they've focused on and they've identified, a problem, and ultimately they've developed a solution. So, no solely do we want to just identify the problems. I think building the business around what that solution could potentially be. And I think the other thing that is important, when we're identifying business opportunity, I think it's very important that we find something that we're passionate about, something that we truly believe in. And because what I've experienced over the years as I've started businesses and I've succeeded in some and failed in most, the one thing that has helped me get through and really weather any storm is just that passion. It's something that I'm passionate about, and it doesn't necessarily feel like a job, or feel like work. So, Elias, in your experience, what are your thoughts as I know you're kind of evaluating now, looking at a consulting business. You're, thinking about a few different options. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on not only identifying a problem, but pursuing something that you're passionate about, and how may that help you, persist when things get difficult?
Well, if, my mind first goes to scenarios where we don't have the passion, and you look at and you see ourselves, or you see other people doing anything without passion, whether it's a job or a career or something with family or anything. And more often than not, those things fail or barely by. Those relationships aren't as meaningful or strong. And I've seen the times where there has been passion, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a job. When things get hard, a lot of times we can be mentally tired, we could be physically exhausted, we could be just out of resources seemingly, but it's passion that will take us to the next step, that conviction, that resolve. And sometimes that's could easily be the very thing that determines whether somebody makes it or breaks it.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Is there a particular entrepreneur or, maybe a business founder, or maybe just it's an individual in your life that has been a good example, right, of, pursuing and being passionate about something that you'd be willing to share?
Well, I think of a lot of the entrepreneurs. My mind has been on Thomas Edison lately. he figured out so many different ways of how not to do, and how many ways a light bulb would not work, right? But he was passionate, and Abraham Lincoln, he failed and failed and failed, and then he succeeded because of that passion, that conviction. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I don't know. I've been reading a number of books that are really going over like Abraham Lincoln and that passion, and but those are two examples I can think of right now.
Well, thank you, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but definitely enjoy learning from you and hearing your perspective. You talk about Edison; those are two, and Lincoln, two great leaders, right? And I look at it as, they set out, they had a goal in mind, and they were, not going to stop until they succeeded, right? And you see that their passion, really helped drive them through those tough moments. So, another thing is we look, and I, even look at Edison, right? He wanted to find a way to light up the world, right, per se. And, I think that solved a very real problem, right? That provided a tremendous amount of value. But, as we sit back and we try to, identify these opportunities, I think oftentimes we can look within, right? What are problems that we're facing? What are problems that friends and family are having? What's something that we can come out with that would, improve people's lives? So, the next point here is, draw upon your own personal experiences. What are you known for? What would your friends and family say your strengths are? As you look back through your life, what are common themes in all your experiences, right? And I think each one of us, on this call, we have our unique talents, we have our strengths, and for good or for bad, at least speaking for myself, I've got plenty of weaknesses, right? I've got plenty of things that aren't my strengths. But I think really drawing on those experiences and asking those closest to us, where do you see me, or where do you potentially perceive me as being successful? What can I do, as I pursue these business endeavors? The next thing is, find opportunities in your community, right? And I think oftentimes and I've been guilty of this, we look to start a business or we identify a business opportunity and we think that we need to think, globally, right? And we think that we're going to take it to, all the way across the United States, and then we're going to branch off into Europe, and then we're going to grow this huge, powerful company. And I think oftentimes we overlook even the opportunities in our own communities. And, one thing that I've seen over the years, having been involved even with government contracts, right? Even contracts that different cities put out. There's plenty of things, that even wherever we reside, there's plenty of opportunity that if we just pursue it and we look for it, even our local governments and, federal governments, they can be the catalyst to help you start a business just with the own work that could come from it. So I think it's important definitely to look within and look at where the low-hanging fruit is. The other thing that, for me, which is definitely the most rewarding thing within business, is getting other people involved. And, we did talk a lot about strategic partnerships, last week on our call and during our class. And I think we all concluded that there's just so many more benefits to effectively forming strategic partnerships and partnering with the right people and the right companies. But I think our greatest source of joy is, partnering with these people and getting other people involved and seeing them have that same passion as we do. The next thing is a business plan. And this is something that I definitely feel that it's super important to do. It's something that I have not been very good at really sitting down and, formalizing a business plan. But Austin, in your experience, and you run across a lot of business owners, what are your thoughts as it pertains to a business plan? Do you think that it's important? Do you think that it's, unnecessary, and where have you seen maybe, businesses that would have benefited from a business plan, and maybe businesses that drilled way too deep and their business plan maybe clouded their vision? What are your thoughts on some of those items?
Yeah, it's a good question. You might hear a lawnmower. We've got one going outside, but hopefully you can hear me still.
We've got
I've seen it go both ways, and I think there is a good balance with a plan. Some people will come to me as an attorney, and they'll say, hey, I want to make sure that I've complied with every single law possible. We're planning everything out. And I typically see people get stuck in planning mode where they want to make sure they know everything and have accounted for every contingency. But I never see them go anywhere because they're too afraid to do something that they haven't, if they haven't vetted all the risks. On the other hand, I see a lot of people get into trouble that just go and start running and have no idea about the laws, have no idea about, like you say, even what they're doing. They're just pursuing anything that walks in the door, essentially. And they'll run from opportunity to opportunity and exhaust themselves trying to make an opportunity work. And sometimes they can make money at it. Sometimes it can be good money even without a business plan. But generally, I think people burn out and feel unhappy when their response each day is just to pursue any potential for money. And to me, the value of the business plan is to look at it and say what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to understand the things that are really going to get you further and along the path of what you want to do. Because the things you really want to do and you really are passionate about, you need a plan for how to say no to the other things that come along. And with a business plan, it's helpful to know general risks and laws and go through some of those things. But you also have to start moving at some point before your plan's final. The plan to me is more of a to-do for that day. And not that day, but maybe the next. You kind of have a vision that keeps you going down a path. But that vision will constantly change and shift as your business goes along. So it's not anything that you do and you're done with. I think it's something that you look back at. And as you grow, it becomes far more important to button some things down, that maybe you could get away with when you're smaller that you didn't have to do. And so to me, it's just a matter of always balancing the need to do something with the need to do it smart. That's what I see in a business plan.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your thoughts there. And I kind of look at it and relate it to kind of a roadmap, right? I think it's important you have your pivotal points along the map, and you have your the places you're going to reference, and you're going to keep you on the right direction. But that within any road trip that you take, there's going to be detours, there's going to be roads that are closed, and I think you have to be prepared for those things. So again, thanks Austin for your explanation. Matt, in your throughout college, I know you've been in a position where you've presented business plans. You've probably observed a lot of people present business plans. What have been some of the reactions or some of your thoughts of you as you've observed or sat in on those from the people that that the business plans are being pitched to? What's some of the feedback, and what's been a consistent source of feedback for these people that have developed these business plans, if you don't mind sharing? Okay, I think we may have lost Matt here. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the next point, where keeping detailed records, and whether that's financial agreements, contracts, invoices, right? I really feel strongly that this is something that's very important, and I think a lot of business owners or even entrepreneurs, to Austin's point, right? They're either on one end of the spectrum or they're completely opposite. They're either very well prepared, got everything in line, and then they just kind of analysis paralysis, as they say, right? They just don't know how to move and take the next step because they get so caught up in all the little details. They're too afraid to take that first step. And then I think there's others, and I've done business with many, where you sign an agreement and within 2 days they've already lost that agreement. They don't know what it says. They didn't read a contract that was signed. So again, I think it's important, just like in everything, find the balance and be certain that we keep these things. And one of the things that I can just speak from experience, even from a financial standpoint, one of the things I would encourage anyone that is looking into starting a business is making sure that you have the financial foundation set. And I don't just mean from a standpoint of maybe it's having working capital, but I think it's having a really good way to track your expenses, to do your bookkeeping, right? I can't tell you how many times I've failed and probably lost a lot of money because in the beginning I was really focused on generating revenue, right? It was let's sell, let's bring on the business. And at the end of the day, I definitely got sloppy with my books. And so what would end up happening at the end of the quarter, I would send my file over to my CPA or my tax accountant, and they would look at me and say, Ryan, what did you do? This is such a mess, right? And it would end up, between me and the CPA, it would end up taking us days on end to try to get everything caught up to speed and reconcile bank accounts. So again, I just really want to stress the importance of that. Even if it is keeping a balance sheet or keep tracking your expenses on an Excel spreadsheet, but just make sure that you're, actively dedicating time to that. The next thing here, and do we have Leah on the call?
Yes, you do.
Fantastic, Leah. How are you today?
Fantastic. We were trying to do two things at once, let my daughter practice driving and do my call, but it didn't work. So now we're parked.
well, thank you for joining. Well, I certainly appreciate it. Well, we'll keep going, but Leah, if you don't mind me asking you, what has been the significance of goals? I know I attended one of your classes about finance, and a lot was learned there, and I appreciate what you shared, but what have been the importance of goals, not only in your personal life, but also within your business? How have goals played an important part of that?
For me, it's knowing when I get to my destination. If I have a goal, for instance, we went hiking the other day. I didn't know how far it was going to be. My daughter just said, hey, there's a lake. And the goal was to get to the lake. And there's a lot of challenges to get there. And but the goal, we got there even through the challenges because we knew where we were going. And so I think that's just, for me, has helped me be successful. I had a purpose and a reason, and attaining that goal, I knew I reached it by getting those purposes and done. So. Excellent.
No, thank you, Leah, for that. Yeah, and I think it is definitely something that we, oftentimes as I've started businesses and move forward, I tend to separate business from personal. And as an entrepreneur, right, as we start these businesses, I mean, there's no, shedding that. These businesses become very personal. And a lot of people, I think, are a little bit taken back when they start to recognize, well, this isn't just a 9-to-5 job, right? I can't just clock in, clock out, go home and forget about it. As an entrepreneur, right, it's very much becomes a central part of not only, our own lives, but the lives of our family. So I think it's really important. And again, I have learned the hard way of not sitting down with my family, and I mean my children as well, and talking about what our goals are, not only for the business, but obviously from a personal standpoint. So again, highly recommend, when you're identifying these problems and, and running with the business, be certain to set goals. And I think the easy goals are to say, and these are the, kind of the closet end, they'll just say, what are your revenue goals? Everyone will say, well, I'm going to make $1 million. And I think you really need to look, and really dig deep and say, look, these are my goals, and this is how I'm going to be able to scale it. And then this last point that I think as I met with a few people yesterday, we talked a little bit about this, but make a plan and then get ready to adapt your plan. right? And over the years, I know I've definitely been accused of being all over the place and not understanding what my direction is. And again, I think I have been guilty of that at times, but one thing I have learned is you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to react and react quickly. You know, whether it's a business opportunity you're pursuing, or, you know, as you outline and you say, look, I'm gonna establish a business, and all we're gonna do is, you know, with Austin, all we're gonna do is mow lawns, right? And that's gonna be our sole focus, nothing more, nothing less. And at the end of the day, I think if you went out to mow lawns and started a lawn care business, you're going to find that a lot of your potential clients are going to want you to edge as well, right? I think there would be a very small portion of people that would say, well, just come in and mow my lawn, don't worry about the edging. And so there's a lot of businesses that I think fail, and a lot of entrepreneurs that fail from, you know, just taking that attitude of just saying, well, I only mow, right? So I'm really sorry, but unfortunately, you can't be my client because I'm not willing to edge. And that's something that I think we definitely have to be flexible with. And if we really think that we're going to be successful in a lawn care business without offering the edging, I think we're grossly mistaken. And I think when those opportunities and the clients are saying, hey, we really would, you know, we really want to work with you, but we need your, you know, we need you to offer this service. You know, I think we have to be open to that. Now, do we have to go ahead and adapt our whole business model when they say, well, you know, maybe you don't believe in mowing, you know, and maybe you've got commitments after 7 o'clock at night. And this particular client says to you, well, I'll give you the contract, but you're going to have to do it at 8 o'clock at night. You know, that's the type of adapting where I think I would definitely be less flexible with. But if a client came to me and said, hey, can you edge? I would definitely be more open to that and consider that. So again, I think it's just the importance of, you know, looking at it and being willing to adapt your plan. At this point, do you guys have any questions, anything else that we would want to drill into with any of those points? And we're going to continue to make our way through it, but any questions or comments?
I just want to comment, thank you for stating that, Ryan. We should be willing to expand ourselves, be willing to just say, yes, I can do that, and find a way. We're intelligent, and even if we don't understand or know how to do something, we can learn it, and we can provide that service. So I like that you touched on being willing to go and expand and not just keep yourself limited.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Leah, for that. You know, and I happen to work with an attorney. That one of the things that is definitely that has impressed me over the years is this particular attorney is willing and is prided himself in learning multiple facets of the law, right? So this particular individual would never proclaim to be an expert in every single field, but what's really neat about it is he's very well versed. And when there's a complex problem or maybe a complex opportunity, what's really neat is, you know, he's able to take that and really kind of break it down, and with his understanding of different parts, whether it's tax or business or, you know, property, whatever it is, you know, it provides a ton of value. So, you know, again, Leah, to your point, I think the broader that we can get with our understanding and our willingness to adapt, the more successful we'll be. Let's go here. You know, what I want to talk a little bit about is our, you know, our personal experiences. So as we come in, you know, and I'll just ask each one of you in your respective professions or businesses, what really prompted you to pursue that? You know, what was it that happened in your life, or, and if you're comfortable sharing, if you're not, no problem. But, you know, for you, Austin, Matt, Leah, what were some of the things, and just out of curiosity, what were some of the things that prompted you to pursue what you're currently pursuing today? And we'll start, Austin, if you're comfortable, I would love to hear.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll admit that my beginnings weren't very inspirational. It was more just looking at the necessities of life at the moment and saying, hey, well, let's try and see where this leads. But over time, I think that the thing that I've really discovered for myself is that there's a couple ways to live. And one is we can kind of wait around and look for a job and send in resumes and things. But the other is to just really look internally instead of looking outside to people and say, well, what have I been blessed with? What strengths do I have? And how can I start to provide value to people? And as I really started taking that mindset more, it really opened my eyes to see a lot of strengths that I had. I saw a lot of weaknesses I had in trying to do that. But I learned that for me, it was far more satisfying to try and develop my own strengths and my own talents and use those in a way that provided value to people, so that they wanted my services. And it put me in a very different situation in life where I didn't have to be worried about whether the company was making enough money or not, or this or that. It was more just the ability to see and recognize, hey, this is what I've been given. I'm blessed with this, and I can use it in these ways. And as I've started looking at life that way, I see a lot of opportunities where I can say, yeah, that is something I can do, where I can learn that. And I've really enjoyed the journey for sure of starting to pursue opportunities, but looking more inside to say, what has God blessed me with, and how do I use those to either help others or serve or create something of value that other people would want.
Excellent, thank you. Elias, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting, similar to what Austin said. It's been a journey of self-discovery, and sometimes others see your strengths before you do, and your weaknesses.
Yep.
But yeah, things that people have come to me with have been sometimes pretty sticky problems, especially with my line of work or the number of years I've been in government relations, regulation, policy, sometimes business development, and trying to sometimes even create something that doesn't exist, or to bring two sides together that are to be partners that are traditionally quite adversarial. I've learned that sometimes, I'm tenacious, sometimes to a fault. I'll push and push.
I understand that.
But I enjoy solving and creating things that aren't a lot of times aren't on the table, or thinking outside the box. Working with people, it's hard not to be able to see people and work with them and interact with people. So I think I'm just reading your points here.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I, appreciated is, as you look at it and, the career path that you've pursued, you make mention that you're able to bring, two parties together that traditionally, don't go together or have never been viewed as, two parties that could potentially work together. And I think that in today's age, and I commend you for that, of having the patience and having that skill set to be able to take the emotion out of things, because I can imagine that you've been a part of situations that are very emotionally charged, right? Whether it's representative of, people's livelihoods or huge financial impacts. And I think there is such a need in our world today, and especially within business, to be able to unite people, right? And then bring people together from various, walks of life, viewpoints, to work together for, for the common good and for the end goal. And so I definitely value and appreciate that strength in your life, that you've been able to develop that and harbor that for so many years, because I know it's not easy.
No, it's not. Especially if you're working against a certain legislator on one thing and he's your number one opponent one session, the next session he's your man, and he's your number one partner to make something else happen. So you really got to, be able to work from a lot of different angles. So it's interesting.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think it, it stems from just showing people respect, right? And again, whatever business it is that we're pursuing or, looking to pursue and structuring, it's such a value. I mean, we have to agree to disagree, right? We have to be able to have those difficult conversations, and at the end of the day, not take it personal, not take offense when maybe someone doesn't agree with us, with our viewpoint. So appreciate that very much. Matt, Leah, do you guys have any thoughts in regards to any of these things that we're mentioning, or some of your strengths and how you've developed those?
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah, please.
Something that's interesting. I'm, a little earlier, I guess, in my career than some, and something I think Austin's been trying to get in my brain is something that he's told me is that, like, common sense to you isn't necessarily common to everybody. And I think I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm really exploring that. And so when I look back at my life, from an early age, I really wanted to be a basketball coach. And with different friends, and I even, I coached some little league teams. Just had a lot of people, admire me for what I did as coaching, and even just friends seeing little things in their form and say, well, try this, and doctoring it a little bit. But, always being like, well, I can't really make money doing that, or, discouraged about it for different reasons. But looking and seeing how that works in the rest of my life, and that what that is it's seeing disconnect, and it's being able to help people to see where they're going off a little bit, and then, coaching and using people's skills to get them where they want to be. Or even just when I had friends who I was, it's a good and bad thing, but I was so good at seeing down the road at something that my friends would come to me for help lying to their parents. They'd say, I'm gonna tell my parents this, like, this is where I'm gonna be. And some of my friends would come to me and be like, they'd ask me and consult with me, and I'd say, well, what if they say this? And they'd be like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, you gotta have every level covered. and so, but looking back and seeing that people come to me for things like that because of my foresight that I'm able to have. Or, I was always the guy that was super friend zoned by all the girls because, I would listen and I'd care, and just different things where you're like, okay, so that was common to me. Like, it's just common sense, but it wasn't to everyone else. And so maybe there is a way that I can actually make that my career. Maybe I can go and help businesses see disconnect. Maybe I can help with culture, and I can coach and connect people together. Because, as I look and we talk about those themes, that's been a theme in my life that people come to me for. And so, again, just trying to explore that. Well, maybe since it's common to me, maybe that doesn't mean it's not necessarily common to everyone else, and it's something that I can benefit and help people with.
Excellent. No, I definitely appreciate that, and that's such a it is truly a gift and truly a strength to be able to understand and perceive people's needs, and I think view them even further down the road than they can even view it themselves, right? Understanding what they can become and should become. And I think as you look at, even if we were to take and draw this back to a business, if you were going to pursue your coaching business or your training business with basketball, I think that unfortunately this day and age, there's a lot of basketball clinics, there's a lot of basketball coaches and mentors, and I think oftentimes you see a lot of these, and I've been involved in them over the years, where it's strictly a financial thing, right? It's let's sign up 5,000 kids, let's get them in here. They'll come in here for an hour. And what we'll do is we'll teach them the fundamentals for 5 minutes, and then we'll let them scrimmage for 55 minutes, and then we'll tell them that their parents need to pick them up. And what ends up happening with that is the kids jump in the car and they're just loving it, right? They're just ecstatic. Mom and dad, this is the greatest thing in the world. I can't wait to come back. Well, we all know that, it is probably the funnest part is playing the game, right? Enjoying that. But you're going to a clinic, you're going to a coach to help develop fundamentals so that when it does become a game, you're better prepared and can perform at a higher level. And so I think, with you, Matt, it's being able to take that and really help those kids or help those people feel something different, right? Make it a higher purpose, a greater purpose than just strictly basketball. And as I look at those people in my life that have been mentors, and some of them have been coaches, it was less about the sport that I was playing, and it was more about what they made me feel throughout that whole process and throughout that whole journey. So I think as we look to identify businesses, I think that has to be at the forefront of our minds. And as we develop these things, is what are the people, what are our clients, what are the people that pursue our services supposed to feel and should feel? And I can promise you, and I've seen that over the years, that when you make it about that, and you pursue that and continue keeping that purpose at the forefront of everything that you do, success follows. And we all define success a little bit different, but I've even seen that from even a monetary standpoint. When I dig in every single day and focus on how these particular clients and make it a connection, remember that, hey, what are these people going to feel, and how are these people going to rate this experience they've had with our company? At the end of the day, then you develop partners, right? You develop people that they go to you and they're super loyal. And I'll tell you that the financial gains and the success follows. So Matt, thank you definitely for touching on that.
Well, I'm sorry. I really appreciate you saying that, because I think another fear that always hits me is like, well, this market is so saturated. Like, there are so many people you could pay to go be a coach, and that's something that, will hold me back. But just the things that you talk about, like, there are a lot of coaches, but that doesn't mean that they can touch people's lives the way that I can touch people's lives. And I can't do it the way that they do it. But just, looking at those experiences and saying, well, you've seen it, there's people who do value what you have. And so, yeah, could you market that, and have your specific market, and you have your specific flair to what you do. And that's, like you said, that's what makes the experience for the customer. And so anyways, I just appreciate that, that part that you mentioned there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's, as you look at that field, and, if it were something that you were going to pursue, I think being honest with people is another big thing, right? And I think being real with people. As parents, right, we all tend to say, well, hey, our kid is going to be the next superstar, right? Our kid is going to be the next top athlete in the world. They're going to get signed by this team, at age 12. So I need to get them with a coach that's going to help them develop and turn them into something absolutely amazing. And not that I'm saying that there's anything wrong with that and pursuing excellence and being your very best, but I think it, as a coach, Matt, and something that you look at, maybe a lot of people won't agree with it, but I think that painting that picture from the very beginning of saying it, look, we're here to improve and make each one of you better people. And we're going to do that through basketball, and we're going to do it through the fundamentals, and we're going to do it through the concept of a team, and we're going to teach you these things. And I can assure you that not only will you improve your basketball skills, but you'll also improve as a human being. Rather than a lot of these, places, and I've been a part, bring them in here and I promise you we'll have them signed, right? We'll have them signed here in the next 6 months or the next year.
Right.
And you're in there and you're, that these coaches are telling your kids everything that they want to hear, not what they should hear or need to hear. They're just telling them, wow, you're amazing, you're great, you're on track, you're so good. And they start kind of pulling on those emotions that, unfortunately, it's a kind of a false emotion, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
again, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Leah, any thoughts? I hope you're not hard braking in a parking lot there, and you guys are obeying the speed limits. But any thoughts you have?
So we're in the parking lot. It's just breaking in and out. But I do. I have been blessed because I haven't had to work to supply the needs and wants of our family, right? When my kids started wanting to serve missions, that was my first thing, is I want to be able to serve without having to financially, because we didn't save for it. Wasn't our journey took us somewhere else. So the opportunity came to do Positive Rewards. The Treasure Tower came in my life, and that was my passion. And I learned to love my clients, my customers, and I didn't want to do anything but settle. I didn't want to settle for less than best for them.
Mhm.
And so this past 10 years has really given me that that drive, that now as I watch my kids older and everybody's suffering with what am I going to do with my life? Where's my value? I think that's my personal passion right now, is I want them to believe in themselves and everybody. And that's why I wanted to do Celebrate, is to help lift everybody up from what everybody else thinks about them, and to remind themselves that you're an individual valued, of worth, and that you can rise above the challenges that you were handed.
Excellent. No, and thank you so much, Leah. And I think that just goes to show, I mean, with the family that you have, and then the business that you've pursued, and when you make it about those things and you touch on that higher purpose and you keep that at your forefront, you've been able to see your business be successful, right? And you're getting calls to come in and help mentor and help other people succeed. So thank you for sharing that. And this next point in this quote, it is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. And I just want, each one of you to know that I have found this to be true. And, whether that is the people that you're partnered with or associated with, or quite frankly, if you look at your clients, I'm in a very service-oriented business, and it's an easy thing to say, and it's kind of one of the, as you look at a sales script and you're reading through it, I want to just help you succeed, Mr. Customer. I want to do what's in your very best interest, and that's why we're in business. And we've all heard these things, right? We've all purchased a car before, and we've been, sold well. But I can just assure you guys that as we continue in whatever business, within our current businesses or potential businesses we're pursuing, is if we focus on helping others succeed, we'll succeed ourselves. And I think it's important that we look at and we have a good understanding of how we define success. And so for me, I would be very curious, and it's something that I earnestly want to understand, and would love to hear, what do each of you define success as? What is success? What is success, whether it's in business? What is success as a person? How do you personally define success? Does anyone want to start with that, or have any thoughts? Matt, what do you think?
Will you repeat that one more time for me, Ryan?
How do you define success?
I think I feel like it's even kind of changing for me right now. I just think so much of growing up, and this is good and bad, but like from a really young age, I just wanted to be a father, and provide for my family. And I feel like my dad is a really good example of just like the ultimate provider. Like, he had 9 kids, and you can see that like that's just his life. Like, he gave his life to his family, and church calling, and did a really good job there. So maybe that was the example that I saw, and so I'm not old by any means, but I'm almost 26 and I'm not married yet, so I don't have a family. And so you do have to just start to look, and so this is where I say it's a good and bad thing, in that I think realizing that you can bless a whole lot more lives than just your family, and you can still do a really good job at blessing and providing for your family, but there's more that you can do. And so for me, success is feeling like, you know, one, that's the number one priority, that my family is taken care of, but then also just that I'm using the gifts that I've been given to bless lives around me. And so it's becoming less and less for me about, you know, hitting that $1 million or different things like that, but just, you know, really just seeing that will come as I pursue my talents and my gifts. And so, yeah, at some point I want to be able to do philanthropy, you know, give money back to universities and different causes and things like that. But, you know, those things will come. And for me, it's just feeling that fulfillment of knowing that I'm using the gifts that I've been given.
Absolutely. Thank you. Leah, do you have a
Hey,
thought?
Brian,
Yes.
I do. Matt, number one, just to tell you, my husband was 28 when we got married, and he is successfully taking care of his family just like your dad did. And we had 8 kids, so you have hope. Next thing is success for me is when I lay my head down at the end of the night, have I been able to touch someone else's life, lift it up, and make it better? And if so, if it's just one person, and if it's just a small little thing, that's success. Everything else falls into place. But as long as we keep trying to be self-reliant and doing our very best, it all falls into place. And the lack we have, the needs get met. So success is number one, putting God and others first, and everything else falls into place.
I love it, Leah. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts in regards to success and how that would be defined?
I think they did great. I think success really is less about the what and far more about the who we touch. It's amazing how, you know, kind of with what Leah said, the feeling that we get, the satisfaction in our heart by even some of the simplest things. It's amazing how some of the poorest people in the world were also the wealthiest based off how many people they touched. So, and they were genuinely happy, you know. So it's definitely about more the who than the what.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Austin, did you have something you wanted to add?
And just one other thing to throw in. I agree with the people side of it a lot. But one thing I see too is, to me, success is really being able to learn and live by truth. When we become true to ourselves and who we are inside of us, when we are willing to stand up for truth and live by what's true, there's a lot of pressure in the world and among people to maybe pretend like things aren't the way they are or whatnot. And I've been in situations plenty of times where I had a desire to help someone. And so I never spoke up and helped them out with the situation because I didn't want to offend them or something else. But at the end, my interactions with them weren't helpful because I wasn't ultimately living by truth. And it's not to say that truth requires me to offend everyone. It's more just to say that at the end of the day, when I can live by truth and really help people in true good ways, or live to the potential inside me and help others reach their potential, that's all part of truth to me, then I feel far more successful than if I'm just earning money, but no one's really benefiting, or if I'm just having conversations, but no one's really benefiting. It's, to me, getting to this something deeper in life. And the relationships and the things that I think others talked about really focus on that. But I just throw in that other little piece about truth.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And, you know, I really do appreciate each one of you sharing and, you know, and how you define success and how you view it. And I can't help but not think of, I mean, when we are identifying opportunities or our careers or in everything that we do, I think it is important to truly, you know, start with the end in mind and understand what that success and what we want that end goal to be. And I think as we keep that and we keep centered and focused on that, the journey becomes a lot more enjoyable and it's easy to stay focused. So really we're wrapping up here. But I do want to, just touch on a few more points before we end. This quote here, Elias, would you be able to read that for me?
Planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now.
Absolutely, thank you. So again, just touching on the importance of planning, right? I'm all for getting out and lifting and getting to work and putting one step forward. I think that's super important. But one thing that I've had to learn the hard way, even with some of the long distance endurance racing that I'm involved in, is it's one thing just to show up to a marathon and say, okay, I'm just going to run this and we're going to be good. But it's another thing to really look at the course and understand, okay, if I'm running, I average a 9-minute mile, I know that if I go up this hill, I should be running it at about a 10-minute pace instead of a 9-minute pace. And being able to plan, what it does at the end of the day, it's I'm not trying to set any world records, but it allows me to cross the finish line and it allows me to be able to enjoy that time with my family, right? And not feel like I never want to do this ever again. So again, I've had to learn this the hard way, but I definitely am a firm believer that planning is absolutely critical, whether it's in a business setting or a personal setting. Let's be certain that we're planning and we've got a set plan in place so that we can succeed and see what that looks like. We talked a little bit about a business plan, and this is something that, again, is something that I'm learning how to develop and put forth. But, these are the basic, makeups and the elements of a business plan, things that you can see through. And this is information that, if you Google the business plan, you can see samples, you can see different things. But what I like about it is, you'll see each one of these items defined, and it really allows you to think through it, and it kind of provides you an outline to structure your business and your plan. We talked a lot about this, keeping good, accurate records. We talked about goals again, and the last thing is just understanding that plans change, right? And we have to be willing to adapt, and we have to maintain a positive attitude in the midst of adversity and even in the successes. So with that, again, I just want to thank each one of you for taking the time out of your day away from your commitments and your families and everything, and joining me and ultimately teaching me. So I wish each and every one of you success in all that you do, and just please know that I'm definitely a resource and would be happy to help and to talk and at least share some insight about some of the things that I've seen over the years. So with that, does anyone have any questions before we sign off? Okay, well then we will conclude the class. And again, I really appreciate each one of you joining and your contributions. You guys are wonderful.
Thanks, Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.